And welcome back to Zangeki no Reginleiv, and we're going to continue moving further south as humanity is running for its goddamn life from the giants. Now last time we did manage to push them back slightly using those siege towers from Veland, but things are going to go a little differently this time. And there are going to be a couple of new things that the game throws at us, which, well, you'll see. So we're going to start behind this big-ass barrier, but you're going to see those arrows show up more, which are rendezvous points where the CPUs and you need to go in order to get the next sequence of actions to happen. I noted in the previous video that Freya now has the Blazing Staff, or Staff of Fire, or whatever you feel like calling it, and this is a great weapon, except when you use it at close range, which I'm going to demonstrate right now. So you can see how this would be effective, but only at a distance. Let's just say I'm glad that in the previous video, I upped Freya's health by like 30 or 40 points, because otherwise that would have taken off an even greater chunk of my health. The current weapon set I have for Freya is actually okay in terms of balance. We have the Greatsword, we have the Blazing Staff, and she has Air's Bow, which is the one that can lock on to several different targets. Now, the only thing about this weapon set is that it doesn't work so well for mid-range combat. Because if you try using the Blazing Staff, you risk being too close to the explosion and getting hit. If you use Air's Bow, there's a chance that the arrows will just circle around the target over and over because they kind of fly off of the bow at a weird angle. If you use the Greatsword, even though its range is a little longer than just the regular sword, there's still a chance that they'll be too far out of range and you just won't be able to hit them. But in terms of like long distance crowd control, this is a pretty good set of equipment to use. Like, see what I mean about how it's just circling around the target? Now I'm going to try going after several water crystals in this, because I'm going to need those to forge several pieces of equipment to get the weapon tree to branch down further, along one side at least. I'm pretty sure that on the far right of the tree I don't have that problem, but for everywhere else I've hit that roadblock. Also, for those of you who are looking at the video timer and wondering, oh, well, you're probably going to play a couple different missions in this video. Not so much. This is all one mission. It is really long. As such, since I'm the kind of person who doesn't like talking because I feel like I need to fill dead air, there are going to be stretches in this video where commentary is just going to cut out, game volume is going to raise up, and I'll only interject here and there after that point. I will say though about this first part of the mission, try and leave at least one of the mid-sized giants alive. That way it gives you plenty of time to run around and collect all these crystals, because you can never, ever have too many of those in this game. Whether you're going for weapon upgrades, whether you're just trying to buff the hell out of each character's health, you can never have too much. Another important thing too is using my distance weapons at first, and always keeping an eye on that mana gauge to the right. And when it gets down to maybe like a third full, or 2/3 empty, depending on your outlook on life, move in and start using the Greatsword so you can get some of that back. You always want to make sure that for the next wave, you have enough mana to at least do a couple shots of the Blazing Staff and a couple shots of the bow. And while I may have said I'm looking specifically for water crystals in this stage, that's not going to stop me from going after the weapon of these giants first, both for the earth crystals, and so if they want to attack me, they have to use their bare hands, because their arms regenerate, but the weapons don't.
弓を上げんな。おお、近づいてからだ。よっ、開けるな。
The thing about this section is the prompt to go to that arrow appears before you have all of the giants slain. But if you're like me and you're a complete whore for crystals, you don't go near that, and make sure you're not standing near that point when it pops up, otherwise you'll automatically go to the next part of the level. And I've just sped this part up so that we can move ahead to the next section, because otherwise, holy shit, this is going to be a long video. And here we see the reinforcements for the giants. Yeah, if you thought the giants didn't seem that intimidating so far, they've been holding back a lot. Because now they're breaking out the giant elephants. And as we limbo away to safety, note also there's an invisible wall so you don't just immediately charge into this thing and die. Because if this thing steps on you, it can end up doing a lot of damage. So this is going to be primarily what you're doing through this stage, is drifting back through these barriers as you try to fight off the giants. Trying to protect the settlement or run away before too many people get hurt. And I'll tell you right now, there are a couple targetable parts of this thing, but you are not going to do any damage to it. This section will start off with everybody falling back, because no one's going to damage that thing. But, after you're doing this for a little bit, enemies are going to start spawning behind the giant elephant. And it's going to enter a more wide open area. Like, you don't want to go in there immediately or you're going to get stepped on because there's nowhere to go. However, you can kind of go off to the side of it and manage to hit some of the enemies that are behind it. In particular, you're going to see these flying guys. You can whip out a bow or any other long-range weapon and do some preemptive damage to them. Now, I kind of got caught up in this a little bit. Because the thing is, there are these flying guys, there are mid-sized giants, and there are smaller giants. And it's very easy to lose track of where all of them are. Of course, it doesn't help that half of that one was behind a tree, so I couldn't see it swinging the club. And you might have noticed that, well, it's still moving now, but pretty soon that elephant's going to stop moving. It stops at regular intervals throughout this stage, as this battle is going on around it. And it'll start moving again once most or all of the giants are taken out. It depends on what part of the stage you're in. What can be annoying about doing this is, depending on what camera mode you have enabled, anytime you approach the elephant, like say if you want to kill some enemies that are nearby it, the camera will automatically angle all the way up so you can see to the top of the elephant. And as you might notice, there is someone riding on the back of it, controlling everything. So, logically, you might think, well, since I can't damage the elephant itself, I'm going to shoot at the person riding on it. And maybe that'll help somehow. You can't damage that guy either. So just focus on all the units around it. Note that almost as soon as that last giant is killed, this thing is going to start moving again. So you have to be very careful if you're going to run around and collect crystals as this thing is moving. I mean, it does happen by accident later on, but you'll get an idea of just how much health you'll lose if you accidentally get stepped on by this thing. That's a big reason why I'm being a little more careful than I usually am maneuvering around this thing, making sure that I'm keeping plenty of safe space between me and the elephant. You've probably noticed this by now, but every time that blue circle appears around you, it means there's an arrow that you have to move to. Otherwise, the rest of the level isn't going to play out. I haven't managed to fail a level by not moving to one in time, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's possible in a couple instances.
開けてるよ待ってくれって
おい早く開けやがれ
急げ開けようとしてんだって
敵が来てるんだ開けろ
やってるもうちょっと我慢してくれ
早く開けてくれ敵が目の前まで来てるんだぞ
待ってって言ってるだろうが聞こえねえのか
もうダメだ踏み潰される助けてくれ
色耐えるな門はすぐに開く
Here's another thing to be careful about. The camera whips around in regular intervals to show you what the elephant's doing. And in that instance, I was dashing through the door, camera spun around, led me straight into the wall. Best of luck with that, buddy. Now I'm leaving all of the guards and the main characters, Sigmund, Helgi, Villand, I'm leaving them way behind. And there's a reason for that. Number one is that they're just going to path this way anyhow, so there's no reason to really escort them. They're going to move here on their own regardless of what I do. The other reason is where the next point of attack is going to happen. Before, the giants were following that elephant to charge into the town around it. This time is going to work a little bit differently. As you can see, we've been in this valley the entire time, and everything's been charging through one end or the other. That's not going to happen in this area, at least.
見てやがれ次の防壁はもっと頑丈だ
次の防壁に全戦力を集めよう次が決戦だ奴を倒せないか
私の力では倒すどころか傷を負わせることすらできません
それほど恐ろしい相手か
戦っても犠牲が増えるだけです退却するしか手がありません
And the next set of enemies appears on radar. This time they're going to pour in from the sides of the valley down onto the settlements below. And I'm just going to wait for enough giants to get in, and that got rid of a lot of them. I mean, it also blew up the house, but hey, gotta crack a few eggs, right? That's a major thing for most of the levels in this game, but particularly for instances like this, is being able to control all of the smaller units as quickly as you can. Otherwise, they will surround you, they'll stun lock you, so that those larger ones will hit you more consistently. And, okay, that was another good use of the staff, was just blowing up the weapon in his hand. I mean, it blew up the hand too, but you kind of want that. Obviously, it is possible to kill these giants much faster than what I'm doing. It's just that I'm trying for very particular crystals, so you have to do things like lob off the arms, decap them, etc., etc. Just doing that so I don't end up having to go back and do the same mission again, and I can just go mission to mission for these videos. In a casual playthrough, sure, I would absolutely just try to kill everything as fast as possible, but I'm trying to keep the marathon in mind instead of just the short sprint.
踏みとどまれ戦え勇敢な戦士だけがバルハラに行けるのだそうだ大丈夫か待ってたぜようやく俺様の出番だな挑戦士が来たぜシグムンド時間ぶっ潰せここで食い止めてやるぜ人だろうが怪物だろうがな俺様の出番が来たなこのぶっ潰してやるぜ俺の矢を受けてみな私の間合いだぞ力を与えたまえ
And in my mad, greedy rush for crystals, you're about to see just how much damage this elephant does. Watch the health bar. That is a little over a third of my health. And bear in mind, I boosted this character's health not too long ago. So if I hadn't done that, that would probably be closer to half of my health. A second wave of giants comes in, but this is almost entirely the smaller giants. There is one larger one, but it comes down the hill a little slower than the others. So you can pretty easily take all of these out, and then just have the one larger giant left. Unlike before, when you took out the one last giant and it just started moving immediately, the elephant stays in place for a little bit, so if there are some crystals in front of it that you want to pick up, you can dash in and grab them real quick. I presume that it's waiting for the dialogue trees to play through before it starts moving again. And unlike the last couple of times, there's no arrow that you have to go to in order to initiate the next sequence of events. This one just kind of happens on its own, so you're still going to have to wait for the door to open, only this time, whereas before, it would only happen if you went to a certain point. This time, you're just stuck waiting and there's nothing you can do to initiate it. Oh, I just realized I never said what the name of that thing is. That elephant-looking thing is Aldombla, which in Norse mythology is not an elephant, it's a cow. Granted, that's not as bad as some of the other liberties that were taken with this game in terms of the mythology, but still a little strange. This door opens a little faster than the others. This guy just calls for it to open and immediately opens. And you get into this much more open space. Now there's a ridge going up this side, which it looks like you can use to get a higher vantage point and take shots at maybe the person on the elephant, but there's an invisible wall right here, which if you're not careful will lead you to fall down the side of the cliff. You really don't want to do this as the elephant thing is coming through, because otherwise you're going to take a bunch of unnecessary damage. So what you have to do is just go part way up the ridge and just take in the sights of this thing destroying yet another barrier. And this is going to cause another flood of enemies to enter the area. Now this thing is going to conveniently move off to the side of this open area rather than just standing in the middle of it. And eventually it's going to cause some enemies to spawn behind where the humans are retreating. Well, actually behind all of us, near where the barrier was. Now here's the thing, you can kill them now with your explosive weapon or any weapon that has range to it. However, when the thing breaks through the barrier, it creates an invisible wall. So you can't actually pick up any of those crystals. Just another note too, is sometimes some of the NPCs will kinda sorta get stuck. Like if you look on the radar, you can see a few green dots out there. Those are humans who were a little too slow on the previous encounters. And that's why it looks like the giants are just attacking a wall. They're not. There are civilians / guards who got caught in the fracas. So if you're willing to sacrifice the crystals, this is an effective way to get through the initial wave of enemies. I forget sometimes that it's not just the hitbox of the weapon itself, but there's also, I guess, a little shockwave that radiates out a little bit from it, and that can cause damage too. That's how I'm trying to rationalize my getting hit when the club actually landed in front of me. The upshot is that even if you get in trouble in this area, there are a bunch of NPCs attacking the giants well away from this area, so they're going to draw some of the crowd away from you. Even so, it's very easy to get in trouble. So just be on the lookout for any of those health things on the map, which unfortunately one of them is behind the invisible wall, and the giant is standing directly over the top of what I'm trying to get to. It's alright though, these things move slow enough that you can just wait for them to come toward you a little bit and then dash past them. Aside from being able to grab stuff that's behind them, they also take a really long time to turn around. So that gives you plenty of time to take pot shots at whatever part of them you want to hit. as this is all going on, a second wave starts to appear. This one doesn't happen when the first wave is completely destroyed or anything, it just happens after a certain amount of time. This one is going to be composed of a shit ton of lindworms. So I'm trying really hard to make sure that this giant's incapacitated before they get here. Now unfortunately that took a bit of time, so the lindworms and everyone else with them have already cleared the ridge, and they're going to be right on top of me as soon as I turn around. What I like to do with these guys is move against the grain of wherever they're traveling. Because if they're high enough off the ground, that means that their fireballs aren't going to come anywhere near me. Of course, the tricky part about having worms involved is you need to stay in constant motion. Even more so than usual. Because otherwise, they'll just hover around you and drop fireballs on your head. And yes, the fireballs do a decent amount of damage, but it's kind of deceptive how much damage they can do because your character doesn't flinch, doesn't get knocked back. They just sort of take the hit and keep going. Like there. There was no sort of feedback from the in-game character. So the damage from fireballs can really pile up if you're not paying attention. Something else that's happening far away from where I currently am now is that the humans have retreated, and in the process, they met a group of berserkers. And among them is Regin, so he's back. And because of that, the berserkers that are with him have pretty decent attacks, so all the giants that I've sort of milled around where they are going to be dealt with in due order by just the NPCs. Meanwhile, I'm still kind of tap dancing my way around these giants because I'm only at half health, and at that health, these things could two-shot me. So I'm just trying to be really careful about this, so I don't have to redo anything up to this point. I screwed up a little here because the next wave isn't going to happen when all the giants are dead. It happens on a timer, and they are appearing right now. And my magic is still pretty low, so there are going to be several lindworms coming in, and it's going to be a little tough to take them out unless I have a decent amount of magic. Of course, the other problem here is that a lot of these trees are still standing. If you really want to, you can go through and try to knock as many of those down as you want to help open up the battlefield a bit more and clear out your line of sight, but I did not think ahead that far. So kind of like before, I'm low on magic, so I can't use my bow or my staff against them, so it's going to be hit and run tactics from here on out against these guys. It's been up there for a few minutes now, but I did not notice the low battery thing in the upper left. Oops. Well, fortunately, there aren't any instances where the battery dies and I have to do more editing on these videos. I recorded this and the part after this in one sitting, and yeah, mental note, change the batteries before I do another session of this. So by this point, Audumbla, I'm probably butchering yet another name, is just waiting at the gate. And even though there's no arrow prompt there, it is an instance where you got to move up to the front gate, the doors open, and the level continues. Although sometimes the dialogue takes a bit... Oh, there it goes. You can tell by the game stopping for a moment before it actually did anything. Now, like before, there are these ridges that go up along the side of the valley, but unlike the other one which had an invisible wall in front of it, you can actually walk all the way up to the top of the ridge here. And it does give you a clear view of the top of Audumbla and the giant that's riding it. You still can't damage it, but at least you can see the rest of the monster clearly. I am going to get off of this though, because you don't really get a good view of this thing destroying the gate from up here. Oh, I should note that, yeah, that fight from before, that was the last one for this stage. The rest of it is just flavor text as these people are running away and the elephant just keeps crashing through barrier after barrier. Including this one. And as long as you didn't get stepped on in that last sequence, or just decide to run into it for whatever reason, level's done. You just wait for the dialogue trees, you wait for people to run away, and stage clear thing should be popping up any second. There it goes. The upshot of this stage is that because it's so long, you fought a ton of giants, so you're going to get a good return on crystals. Yeah, over 1,300 of the regular ones, plus 125 waters, and everything else that we got. So that's definitely going to help with weapon forging progress. Speaking of, let me go ahead and check on the tree. Most of the weapons that are at the bottom of the tree right now are for Freya, but I'm going to see if I can get something done for Frey so that I can show it off in the next video. Let's see, that's Freya. Also Freya. Let's see, Freya again. Freya. Oh, here we go. Very rough translation here, but this is the Keeper's Hammer. And I think I can show that off in the next stage. But as you can see, this one reveals weapons way far down the tree. Oh, I can actually make this. This is the Poison Mist Staff. Can't wait to show that on Freya's next mission. And jeez. You can use Z to zoom out on this, and yeah, we definitely don't have those crystals yet. But this gives you an idea of just how many weapons you can unlock in the game. Just looking at how far the tree extends down on the one side. Anyway, before I do the next mission, I am going to hop into the equipment menu and swap in the Poison Mist Staff for Freya, which, I don't know, it's got a hard act to follow from the Blazing Staff from before, just nuking everything in a certain radius. And now let's switch it over to Frey. And nope, we are not going to be using that spear. We'll be using the hammer that I just made. And I guess it's fitting that it has the kanji for protection in it, because the guard is ranked as a B, which is pretty good. Oh my god. So, next time on Zangeki no Reginleiv, we're going to hit a lot of giants with this thing.